RPG fans, the Switch and Switch 2 have a lot of games coming your way. From indie darlings to massive AAA titles, this lineup is seriously stacked. Here are the top 20 upcoming RPGs you need to know about. Wandering Sword is a wuxia RPG set in ancient China. And if you've ever wanted to live the life of a martial arts hero building a legend from scratch, this one's for you. You play as a young swordsman who barely survives a brutal ambush. From there, you set out across 75 different locations, mountains, rivers, ancient towns, underground lairs, mastering the martial arts and figuring out where you fit in a world full of warriors. The combat lets you switch between turn-based and real-time styles on the fly, all on a tactical, tile-based battlefield. You can recruit other martial artists to your side, build relationships with NPCs, collect a massive library of weapons and techniques, and your decisions shape how the story plays out, with 20 different endings depending on the choices you make. The PC version already earned an overwhelmingly positive rating on Steam, with over 31,000 reviews. And the Switch version includes 2 major DLC packs from the start. Dragon Quest XII has had a rough road. Originally announced in 2021 under a darker, more mature concept, Square Enix wiped the slate clean and revealed the game fresh on the franchise's 40th anniversary in May 2026 with a new title, new logo, and a restart from the ground up. The story centers on a young hero haunted by strange visions during their sleep. As creator Yuji Horii put it, "What lies beyond dreams?" The game seems to be stepping away from the darker original concept in favor of something closer to the classic Dragon Quest feel, which honestly might be the right move. A brief preview trailer showed off the hero, a female companion, and a humanoid dragon character in a colorful world that still has that signature Dragon Quest flair. No confirmed platforms yet either, but given the series' history and the anniversary announcement, Switch 2 seems inevitable. No release date confirmed. Development is ongoing after the restart, so this one could be a 2027 or later release. Wolong 2: Wings of Ember. Team Ninja is back with the sequel to Wolong Fallen Dynasty, and this time it's coming to Switch 2. Set during the late Eastern Han period, as the Three Kingdoms era begins to take shape, you play as a nameless warrior, carving a path through vast battlefields, swarming with demons and some of history's most legendary figures. The first game built a reputation for its morale system and its tight deflect mechanic, where timing a parry right shifts the entire momentum of a fight. Wings of Ember expands on that foundation, and from the trailer, the Phoenix imagery suggests there's a resurrection or revival mechanic tied to the story. The Chinese mythology angle is heavy here. It's not just history, there are monsters and supernatural forces woven in at every level. The original Wolong crossed 5 million players, and this sequel is bringing all of that evolved combat to Switch 2 for the first time. Coming early 2027. The Duskbloods is From Software's Switch 2 exclusive, and it's unlike anything they've done before. A multiplayer PvP/VE action RPG, where up to 8 players compete in matches across different maps. You pick from over a dozen vampire-like characters called Bloodsworn, each with unique weapons and abilities. And the goal is to be the last one standing, in a last player standing format called First Blood. The world has a dark, gothic aesthetic, mixed with steampunk and Victorian elements. You'll see guns, robots, jetpacks, and shape-shifting monsters, alongside the blood-drinking and soul-sapping abilities. Between matches, you're in a hub area, customizing your character, earning rewards, and preparing for the next round. Miyazaki himself directed this one, and he's been clear it came from a completely different design space than anything From Software has done before. The PvP/VE structure was specifically interesting to him because of how many different design possibilities it opens up. Neverway is one of those games that sneaks up on you. On the surface, it looks like a farming sim, but then you find out that the main character Fiona quit her job, moved to an island, and accidentally became the immortal herald of a dead god. So yeah, you're managing a farm, paying off debt, fishing, cooking, building relationships with over 10 characters, some of which you can romance, but underneath all of that is a slow-burning horror story where a nightmare reality called Neverway is bleeding into yours. The action RPG combat is top-down and fast-paced, and every relationship you build with a character actually gives you buffs and new abilities in battle, so the social and the combat sides are genuinely connected. The game is co-directed by the pixel artist from Celeste and features music by Disasterpeace of Hyperlight Drifter fame, so the art and soundtrack are already guaranteed to be something special. Releasing October 2026. Monster Hunter Wilds is officially in development for Nintendo Switch 2, with no exact date confirmed yet, but it's coming. Wilds launched in February 2025 on other platforms and became one of the best received entries in the series in years. You're a hunter in the Forbidden Lands, a mysterious wilderness that transforms and changes in ways that affect both the environment and the creatures living in it. Weather, ecosystems, and creature behavior all interact in real time. Hunting itself got major upgrades, with focus mode letting you target specific wounds and body parts for precision kills. Beyond the base game, a massive expansion called Ascendance drops in 2027, adding Master Rank content and Elder Dragons, bringing the total experience even bigger than what other platforms got at launch. The Switch 2 will likely get this at some point in 2026, and having a game of this scale portable is something Monster Hunter fans have been wanting since World first launched. Trails in the Sky, Second Chapter. If you played Trails in the Sky First Chapter, you know that ending hit hard, and the wait for this one has been rough. The sequel arrives September 17, 2026, and it picks up right where things fell apart. Estelle is out to find Joshua after he disappears with nothing but a harmonica left behind, and that search pulls her into a continent-wide conspiracy tied to a powerful and shadowy organization called Ouroboros. The whole Liberal Kingdom is on the edge of chaos, and Estelle is right in the middle of it. The gameplay is a full 3D remake of the original Trails in the Sky SC, keeping the series' hybrid combat system, rich world building, an enormous cast of characters with actual things going on in their lives. Full English and Japanese voice acting, and the story is fully localized day one alongside Japan. For fans who were heartbroken by the first chapter cliffhanger, the wait is almost over. Professor Layton is back, and this time, he and Luke are heading to America. The story takes place 1 year after Unwound Future, set in a city called Steam Bison that has somehow surpassed even London in its technological development thanks to advanced steam-powered machinery. Then a mysterious incident happens, and you know how Layton operates, he walks into a puzzle. The gameplay stays true to the series' roots. Point-and-click exploration, a huge number of puzzles to solve, and a narrative that unfolds through those classic storybook-style cutscenes. New to this entry are things like using the environment directly in puzzles, a train for longer travel between districts, and arrows for movement through different parts of the city. This is the 8th mainline Layton game, and the first to come to PS5 and PC as well. Level 5 confirmed it's on track for a late 2026 release, and the developer says the game is progressing smoothly. Forge of the Fae is a pixel-style JRPG developed by Datadyne and published by Deck 13, set in a world inspired by 1800s Ireland and Celtic folklore. You play as Fiora, a young inventor living in a world where humans and Fae are in constant conflict. When people start mysteriously disappearing during a miner strike and the chaos of escalating violence, Fiora sets out to uncover the truth. The world is drawn from ancient Celtic mythology, and the setting has that eerie, beautiful quality that comes with Fae folklore. Magic is real, but dangerous, and the line between the world you know and the world beyond is thin. Combat is turn-based and strategy-driven, with a crystal system that lets you channel magic from the Fae world. The decisions you make shape the story, so your playthrough won't look the same as someone else's. It's a Kickstarter success story that hit its funding goal and found a publisher, with a 2027 release window for Switch. DecaPolice is Level 5's long-awaited open-world detective RPG, and it's been in development for what feels like forever, originally announced for 2023 and pushed multiple times since. The wait might actually mean something good. You play as Harvard Marks, a rookie detective working in a crime-ridden city, and the hook is Decazone, a virtual simulation that can recreate any event that ever happened in the city. You jump between the real world and this virtual copy to gather evidence and solve crimes. The open world is described as one of the largest Level 5 has ever built, packed with different kinds of incidents, surprises, and things to discover. The story goes deeper than just catching criminals. Harvard's own past is tied up in the cases he works, and there are bigger forces at play. Given that Level 5 also made Professor Layton, you can expect the mystery and investigation elements to be handled with a lot of care. Coming sometime in 2026. Witchbrook is a life sim and social RPG from Chucklefish, the studio that helped publish Stardew Valley, and it's been in some form of development since 2016. You're a witch enrolling at Witchbrook College in the coastal city of Mossport, and the game is built around everything you'd expect from a cozy life sim. Making friends, finding romance, exploring a large and detailed city, but layered with actual magic, mystery, spells, and spirits. You'll ride your broom around Mossport, which, based on the interactive map Chucklefish revealed, is a genuinely massive place to explore. The world is handcrafted pixel art, deeply detailed, and the team has been very clear they want it to feel rich and alive, which is exactly why it got delayed from winter 2025 to 2026. As of mid-2026, Chucklefish is still targeting this year, but no exact date is locked in yet. One of the most wishlisted games on Steam right now. The next Fire Emblem is here, and it's a Switch 2 exclusive. Fortune's Weave is set around a massive tournament called the Heroic Games, hosted by a figure known as the Divine Sovereign, who promises to grant the wishes of whoever wins. That setup naturally draws in fighters from completely different walks of life, each with their own motivations and agendas, and the story is built around how all of those different paths intertwine. The setting appears to be tied to the world of three houses, with familiar elements like heroes' relics, crests, and even what looks like an older version of Sothis showing up in the reveal trailer. Combat builds on three houses, with combat arts and gambits returning, plus a new system called Blaze Arts that lets units spend health to activate powerful abilities. It's the 18th entry in the series, and it's first on Switch 2. No specific release date yet within the confirmed 2026 window. Oblivion is finally on a Nintendo platform. The Remastered edition includes the full base game, the Shivering Isles expansion, Knights of the Nine, and a stack of additional DLC. Basically everything. You're an escaped prisoner who stumbles into a world-ending crisis when the Emperor is assassinated and the barriers between Tamriel and the demonic plane of Oblivion start breaking down. What made Oblivion so beloved back in 2006 was the sheer scale of the world and how full it felt. Every dungeon, every town, every NPC with their own schedule. The remaster brings all of that into modern visuals without changing the open-ended nature of the experience. You pick a class, you build your character however you want, you go anywhere. The game originally came out in April 2025 on other platforms, and now Switch 2 is getting the full package in 2026. For Switch players who never got to experience Cyrodiil, this is the version to play. No Rest for the Wicked is from Moon Studios, the team behind Ori and the Blind Forest, and it is a serious pivot. This is a top-down action RPG with a handcrafted, painting-like art style, precision-based combat, and a mature political story set on the island of Isola Sacra. You're a holy warrior called a Sereme, sent to investigate a plague ravaging the island. But the island has its own power struggles, factions, and corruption that runs deeper than any disease. Combat is deliberate, there's weight to every swing, and the game punishes careless play. The 1.0 launch in October 2026 adds 15+ new areas, a completely reworked class system, new weapons and bosses, a horde mode, and the full final story arc covering politics, revenge, and the ending players have been theorizing about since early access started in 2024. The PC and PS5 launch is October 2026, with Nintendo Switch 2 confirmed but arriving at a later date. SacriFire is a love letter to 90s JRPGs from Polish developer Pixelated Milk, and it's got Motoi Sakuraba, the composer behind Tales of, Star Ocean, and Dark Souls, handling the music. You play as Ezekiel Raiden, a young soldier training to join an elite order within the Church of Sheol, in an underground city called Antioch, where humanity hides beneath the surface while demons roam above. When a mysterious figure steals an ancient artifact, Ezekiel gets pulled into a conflict that goes far beyond his pay grade. The combat blends real-time and turn-based in a fluid system where you can target specific enemy body parts, chain attacks together, craft weapons, and unlock different disciplines as you go. The story is deliberately built to subvert RPG tropes you think you know where it's going, and then it goes somewhere else. The game shipped on PC in Q1 2026, with the Switch version following later in the year. Digimon Story Time Stranger launches on Switch and Switch 2 on July 10th, 2026, and it's the best entry point for anyone who never touched the series before. You're an Adamus agent, think Special Forces, for the digital world caught in the middle of a crisis, where both the human world and the digital world are on the verge of collapse. To fix it, you travel between both worlds and even through different points in time. You collect, tame, and fight alongside over 450 Digimon, building a roster that fits your style. Combat is strategic and turn-based, pushing you to think about matchups and timing rather than just spamming moves. The game sold over 1 million copies on PS5 and PC last year, and the Switch 2 version runs at 4K 30 frames per second in quality mode, or 1080p 60 frames per second in performance mode. It's a polished, satisfying monster-collecting RPG with a lot of story and personality behind it. The Adventures of Elliot, Millennium Tales. This one is from Team Asano, the team behind Octopath Traveler and Bravely Default, and it's their first action RPG, which is a pretty big deal. You play as Elliot, an adventurer living in a world called Philibeldia, where beast tribes have taken over most of the continent, and humans are barely hanging on in one protected kingdom. Elliot is sent to explore newly discovered ruins and ends up discovering a doorway of time, which kicks off a journey through 1,000 years of history. You visit different ages, each with its own setting, characters, and conflict, and the choices you make affect how those stories connect. Combat is real-time action, with a fairy companion named Faye, who handles support abilities, and the HD 2D visual style looks stunning in motion. Classic pixel characters, detailed 3D environments, dramatic lighting, It came out June 18th, 2026, and it's currently one of the freshest Switch 2 RPG releases right now. Generation 10 is here, and Pokémon Winds and Waves is coming exclusively to Switch 2 in 2027. The game is set across a chain of windswept islands surrounded by ocean, with environments ranging from dense jungles and mangrove swamps to underwater coral reefs and lava caves. The 3 new starters are Brout, a grass-type beanchick, Gekwa, a water-type gecko, and Pombon, a fire-type puppy. The trailer hinted heavily at underwater exploration as a major feature, which hasn't been a focus since Pokémon Sun and Moon. The open-world structure continues from Scarlet and Violet, but running on Switch 2 hardware should mean a much smoother, more polished experience than the performance issues that plagued that generation. The Pokémon Company celebrated the franchise's 30th anniversary with this reveal, and the game looks like the most visually impressive mainline Pokémon title to date. 2 versions, same content, releasing together in 2027. Elden Ring is finally on Nintendo hardware, and it brings everything. The Tarnished edition includes the full base game, the Shadow of the Erdtree expansion, 2 new starting classes, new armor sets, and customization options for Torrent. The story is set in the Lands Between, a massive open world built by From Software and imagined alongside George R.R. Martin. You're a Tarnished, someone stripped of grace, returning to the Lands Between to become the Elden Lord by defeating its most powerful rulers and mending the broken Elden Ring. The world is interconnected and dense, rewarding exploration at every level. Shadow of the Erdtree adds the Realm of Shadow, a whole new region with its own bosses, weapons, story, and mysteries that tie directly into the lore of the main game. The port had a rough start with performance problems, but From Software spent the time to get it right, and recent reports say the game is running well. August 28th, 2026 on Switch 2. The trilogy ends. Final Fantasy VII Revelation is the 3rd and final part of the remake series, and this is it. Cloud, Aerith, Tifa, Barret, Red 13, Yuffie, and now Cid Highwind and Vincent Valentine, all making their way to stop Sephiroth before Meteor destroys the planet. The Highwind is how you get around now, parachuting from an airship into locations across the entire world. Square Enix calls this the most expansive open world they've ever built, with destinations like Wutai, the sun-soaked Medial Archipelago, the frozen northern continent, and even Midgar again. The new Fits system lets you equip outfits that give Cloud and the party entirely new movesets, pulling from classic Final Fantasy jobs. Vincent plays as a fast gunslinger who can transform into monstrous forms. Cid brings area control and lance combat. This is also the first time the remake series launches day 1 on Switch, alongside other platforms, spring 2027 all at once. 20 RPGs that cover everything from indie pixel art adventures to the conclusion of one of gaming's biggest trilogies. The Switch and Switch 2 are having an absolutely insane run for RPG fans. If you enjoyed this, drop a like and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. See you next time.